Hey guys, Doug. So today I want to give an example I just came across on seeking to keep scriptural commands as we were instructed to by Messiah versus the commands that Messiah was arguing and preaching against in his walk. Okay? And I don't mean to be hateful in this video at all of Jewish customs or the Jewish people, especially not. But I want to bring to light an example that I just found today. So I was preparing a list of leavened and unleavened ingredients, and you'll understand why here in a second. I'm going to read a little bit of scripture. And going through that, I came to a point of information on one of the ways that you can take unleavened dough and make it considered a leavened dough according to Jewish traditions and customs that don't have an actual definable scriptural base. It's a traditional base. So I'm going to read Exodus 12, 1 through 20, I think. And we're going to talk about what are the commandments of Passover really quickly, kind of break that down and what it means, and then have a conversation about this interesting tradition I found and how it doesn't really fit with the spirit or commandments for Passover. So with that, if I say words like YAH-who-Ah or Elohim, YAH-who is my understanding of the pronunciation of the Father's name. If you say the Father's name differently, no issue with that. I personally believe any attempt to be closer to his way, any attempt to be closer to understanding his name, the walk he has out for you, that's all good stuff. If you say Yahweh or whatever other pronunciations there may be, I say YAH-who-Ah, I'm not saying you should say YAH-who-Ah, it's just how we say it. With that, Exodus 12, verse 1. And YAH-who-Ah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mystryaim, Egypt, saying, "This new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Yisrael, saying, on the 10th day of this new moon, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the beings, according to each man's need. You make your count for the lamb." Verse 5. "Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same new moon. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slay it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the house where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boil it at all with water, but roast it in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts, and do not leave of it until morning. And what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Passah of YAH-who-Ah. And I shall pass through the land of Mystryaim on that night." Let me put this down so you can see the scriptures. Sorry about that. So, reading the scriptures down here. The framing isn't great, but that's not really the point of the video. This is not a high production video. If you're here, you get that. And we're in verse 12. "And I shall pass through the land of Mystryaim, Egypt, on that night, and shall strike all the firstborn in the land of Mystryaim, both man and beast. And on all the mighty ones of Mystryaim, Egypt, I shall execute judgment. I am YAH-who-Ah. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you, and let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Mystryaim," the land of Egypt. Verse 14. "And this day shall become to you a remembrance, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to YAH-who-Ah throughout your generations. Celebrate it as a festival, an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you cause leaven to cease from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that being shall be cut off from Yisrael. And on the first day is a set apart gathering, and on the seventh day you have a set apart gathering. No work at all is done on them. Only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. And you shall guard the festival of Matzot, the feast of unleavened bread. For on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mystryaim, and you shall guard this day throughout your generations, an everlasting law. In the first month, slight correction, and you shall guard the festival of Matzot, for on this same day I brought your divisions out of the land. I am assuming that is the high Sabbath day on the last day of the feast, but I could be mistaken. I do not claim to know everything about Scripture. I especially don't claim to know His will, nor the exact historical accounts. I'm just going off my best understanding through my development in Scripture. So, verse 18, in the first month, on the 14th day of the new moon, in the evening you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the new moon in the evening. For 7 days no leaven is to be found in your houses, for if anyone eats what is leavened, that same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether sojourner or native of the land. Do not eat that which is leavened. In all your dwellings you are to eat unleavened bread. So then in 21, and Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, go out and take lambs for yourselves according to your clans and slay the Passah. And you shall take, and so then he starts giving the instructions on what we're going to do with this command. Okay, so with that, don't eat unleavened bread for Passover and for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Fair enough. And then you should take all of the leavening agents out of your home, because anyone that eats leavened bread is cut off from Israel. If you disregard this command as a member of Israel, that's a problem. So to guard against that, we remove leaven from our house. Cool. So with that, the tradition I found was that if you are mixing unleavened dough, which requires flour, water, sometimes some other ingredients like salt. Depends on the person's preferences baking. So from the moment you mix, and I'll give the my two levels of understanding just to be clear. From the moment you mix water to leaven, typically starts an 18-minute timer to the point that you need to get that unleavened dough into the oven. Otherwise, it will be considered leavened after 18 minutes. Now, the technicality from my understanding and reading is that the 18 minutes actually starts when you stop working the dough. So when you add the water, start mixing it. Once you're done mixing it, that's when the timer actually starts. It's the unworked period of time before baking. That's the Jewish tradition. We didn't read that anywhere. And if water itself can leaven bread, and I'll touch on that in a second, but if the assumption is at 18 minutes and 1 second or 19 minutes, the bread is now considered leavened. That means you have a timer. That's along with everything else you have to do on the preparation day leading up to the feast. So, and I understand that a lot of people take the entire week preceding the Passover to do their preparations, which is great. I mean, you need to start your preparations on 4 days out to secure your lamb. But a lot of people, certainly us right now, if you have a wife that's pregnant and raising 2 boys, and you're working 12, 13, 14 hours a day to, survive or to do whatever it is that you're doing, that is not a reasonable, place to then take an entire extra week off to do your preparations. So on the day of your preparations, if you're doing your preparations today, which is the first, then you have this pressure on you to, not only are you expected to remove all the leavening from your home, but the very water on which you leaven that you mixed your dough with can now leaven your bread, which is, so my wife has a timer of 18 minutes, and not only does she have to throw that bread out of her house if she hits that 18-minute mark, but now she has to reset everything to make sure that there's no leavened bread specks within her new batch. That is the sort of legalism and tradition that Messiah is speaking against. So now let's say that's true. Let's just pretend for a second that that's absolutely 18 minutes, hard line, real thing. Then water's a leavening agent, potentially. And for 7 days, you need to cease water from your dwellings. Okay, that's troubling. And it's just not practical. And it adds stress to a considerably important day in Scripture, especially for Christians, because this is the meal that Messiah commanded us to, at least my understanding. If you have a good argument against that, then leave it down below. But we are commanded to do this now, not only in our understanding of coming out, being delivered from Mystryaim, or Egypt, but also because we are delivered from the death penalty of our sin, from the judgment that we have perfectly well justified, most of us. So we need Messiah to receive deliverance from that judgment. And we have that deliverance through his sacrifice as the Passover lamb. And now we do this in remembrance of our deliverance, not only from the world the slavery within it, but also from the death penalty and the persecution of our sin, which is defined by the law, which means if you can sin, then the law is in play. So anyway, I will add something that I've learned, because the thing that's beautiful about the law, teacher, what's the first and greatest command? Well, the first and greatest command is to love YAH-who-Ah, your Elohim, with all your heart, all your mind, and all your spirit. And the second is like onto it, to love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commands hang all the Torah or law and the prophets. Okay, so every single commandment is teaching us how to love the Father better, how to love our neighbors better, or both. And then when you're doing your Passover preparations and you're going through your home and you try your hardest to find every single piece of food that has any sort of leavening in it and get it out of your house. For us, it's always been, 2 or 3 days in that we'll be digging through something. We'd give it, I didn't check. I didn't realize I had this. And you give it the quick check before you try to, have whatever it is. And sure enough, you'll find something with leavening in it. And that's happened every year for us. Like, what's that mean? Well, if you consider leaven sin, which scripturally leaven is referred to as sin all the time, right? So if you consider leavening sin, and then the week of unleavened bread as your life, no matter how hard you try to find all of the sin in your life or all the leaven in your life, you always find more. The harder you look, the more you find, and it's a never-ending process. And that's why we need Messiah and his salvation and grace, so that we can walk this walk in certainty, knowing that if we try to seek him and his ways, we have forgiveness for sins. When we stumble, we can get up and keep moving without fear for the transgression that we've committed by accident in our stumblings, because we have the grace of Messiah if we trust and believe in his name and in the grace that he gave us through his crucifixion and through the promise of his rising with the first and second resurrections, and belief and trust in his judgment. So, and that's metaphorical in nature to see these things in our lives. Like, you will always find leaven. Now, of course, 5 years into your walk, hopefully the sin you find in your life looks differently than it did at the first 5 years. But if you're so stressed trying to keep these technical nuance and legality of traditions of men, it distracts you from these greater and more important matters of Torah, as Messiah said. And I guess I just wanted to share this. It's so interesting to me. If you're here, thank you. I was reading in the Scriptures 2009 edition. If you are in Alaska and need a set of scriptures, let us know and we will get you a set. If you are not in Alaska, I highly recommend checking out Grindstone Ministries or Refuge Medical. They're related by nature of their owner and the people running them. Grindstone Ministries gives out Bibles as well. They've been doing that for longer than we have. That's what inspired us to do it here in Alaska. If you're not in Alaska, I would encourage you to go and look at Grindstone Ministries and getting your scriptures from them, because they're in the lower 48 and more apt to be able to provide those things, where here in Alaska, we have to get them to Alaska, getting them back out of Alaska. There's a better place probably to do that. If you want to buy a copy from us in Alaska, that's fine. But also there's better places to do it. I would recommend Grindstone because you can purchase them at their cost as well. Anyway, so I don't know, guys. I have found that Jewish traditions can often provide teachings both on understanding what Messiah was talking about or giving us better context for certain things. I have found fruit in Jewish traditions and teaching to better understand certain aspects of Torah, to better understand certain aspects of the world we exist in because of the kosher certifications and certain ingredients requiring for them. But I've also found excellent examples of what Messiah is talking about with what the burden of the Torah is. Come to me, all who are weary, my burden is light. Versus the strictness of Talmud teachings, where you have to live every aspect of your life with constant, extreme discretion in order to maintain that. And it seems to me to be overburdening. Maybe if there's Jewish watchers on the channel or on this video, for sure you can leave your thoughts and your beliefs or context of some of these things that maybe I don't understand, not being a person walking in Talmud teachings. I'd happily welcome those comments, of course. But for those of you that are curious about these things, or that, see the law being done away with versus the traditions of men being done away with, I was hoping this might be helpful for someone, or maybe interesting. I don't know. As far as the rest of things go, we are hopefully going to be making updates on where we've been the last couple of months. We have made a whole bunch of progress. We're bringing a lot of really cool stuff to Alaska and then to the market, I believe, at least. And we're pretty excited about it. So content will be coming out on some of the testing we've done, on some of the things we've learned, and some of the stuff we'll be bringing to market. Not we as in Douglas Milburn, but we as in our LLC that we're working on getting online, so to speak. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions about Passover or anything else, feel free to leave them below. I think that about wraps it up. Hopefully we'll be getting a list posted on a post soon that will have a breakdown of some common leavening agents and common ingredients that you might not recognize that are or are not leavening agents to help you in your finding a leaven in your life, in your world. Anyway, love you guys. Shalom.